What happens when the girl you pulled out of poverty forges a secret life behind your back? I'm the CEO of one of the largest casino empires in the world. I spent 15 years building a kingdom for my high school sweetheart, Maya, only for her to trade it all for a simple affair with a man who couldn't even afford her shoes. She thought she was playing me, but she forgot one thing. I own the house. From dismantling her lover's career to foreclosing on her mother's home, I didn't just file for divorce. I executed a total financial wipeout. Stick around to see how a master of the long game handles a betrayal that started in a trailer park and ended in a multi-million-dollar penthouse. This is the story of why you never, ever try to bluff the house. I'm the casino king of my city. My wife thought she could bluff me. Now she's learned the house always wins. Before I get into the mess, you have to understand where we started. This wasn't some Vegas wedding on a whim. Maya and I were the legend of Clark County. The foundation, 15 years of all in. We grew up in a town where the only thing that grew was the weeds. Maya was the girl with the hand-me-down boots and the most beautiful, defiant eyes I'd ever seen. I was the kid stealing scrap metal to buy us burgers. At 17, we'd sit on the roof of my beat-up truck looking at the distant glow of the city lights, and I promised her, one day, you'll own a piece of that sky. And God, I made it happen. When I got my first break as a pit boss, she moved into a cockroach-infested studio with me and ate ramen for a year so I could put every cent into my first investment. When I finally made it to the executive suites, she was the one by my side at every gala. I remember one night in Macau. I just closed the deal that put us in the billionaire bracket. I bought her a blue diamond that matched the dress she was wearing. She leaned in and whispered, "I don't need the rock, Elias. I just need you." I believed her. I worshipped the ground she walked on. Every morning for 12 years, I had a floors deliver a single white lily to her bedside, just to remind her that even in the desert of Las Vegas, she was the only thing that was pure. I didn't have hobbies. My hobby was making Maya the happiest woman on the planet. I built a literal wing of our mansion just for her painting studio because she once mentioned she liked the light in the afternoons. We weren't just a couple. We were a fortress. Or so I thought. The problem with building a fortress is that you eventually stop looking for the cracks inside. My job got bigger. I was managing 3 properties, 1,000 employees, and the kind of high-stakes politics that keep you up until 3 a.m. I thought she was proud of us. I thought she saw the empire as ours. But apparently, she started looking for something simpler than the world I'd killed myself to build for her. The first red flag being in the casino business, you learn to read tells. You see when a high roller is sweating a bet they can't afford. About a year ago, Maya's tells started showing. It was the way she'd tilt her phone away from me, a move so amateur it was insulting. Then there was the charity work in the suburbs. My wife doesn't do suburbs unless there's a designer outlet nearby. I didn't say a word. I just checked the logs on the car I bought her. She was spending 4 days a week at a modest little house in a mid-level neighborhood. The owner? A guy named Julian, a middle-class architect, a guy who probably thinks a $200 dinner is a splurge. The slow burn discovery, I didn't confront her after the first time. I wanted a full deck of cards. Instance 1, I forgot my watch at home and went back early. I saw her on the balcony, laughing into her phone with a look of genuine adoration I hadn't seen in years. She was talking about how simple and real he was. Instance 2, I hired a private investigator, one of my casino's head of security. He caught them at a cheap motel. My wife, wearing a $5,000 trench coat, entering a $60 a night room. The irony was nauseating. Instance 3, the anniversary lie. We had a dinner planned for our 15th. She called and said she had a migraine. I watched the live feed from the PI as she met him at a public park, sharing a sub sandwich on a bench like a couple of teenagers. That was the moment the high school sweetheart in me died. The casino CEO took over. The house collects in my world. If you cheat the house, you don't just get kicked out. You get ruined. First, I looked at her family. I've been bankrolling her parents and siblings for a decade. I own the deeds to their houses through one of my holding companies. I didn't evict them. Not yet. I just restructured the debt. Now they owe my corporation hundreds of thousands in backdated management fees. They are terrified and they're calling Maya begging for help she no longer has. Next was Julian. I didn't lay a finger on him. I just bought the firm he worked for. Then I fired him. Then I made sure every developer I do business with, which is all of them, knew that Julian was unreliable. He's currently working as a freelance draftsman for pennies, and his bank just coincidentally decided to call in his small business loan. The final reveal last night, I sat her down in our dining room. I didn't scream. I just laid out the photos of her and Julian on the table like a winning hand of poker. She cried. She talked about losing herself in the luxury and wanting something real. I told her, real is expensive, Maya. I've frozen the secondary accounts. I've reclaimed the jewelry, most of which was technically on loan from the casino's vault for promotional purposes. I told her she's welcome to go live that real, simple life with Julian, but she'll be doing it while being sued for the missing funds I've diverted from her personal trusts. I'm going to make sure they are both so buried in legal fees and debt that they won't have time for romance. They'll be too busy deciding which bill to skip so they can eat. She came from nothing, and I'm making sure she returns there. Only this time, she knows exactly what she's missing. The house always wins. Edit 1. To the people saying I'm being too harsh, you don't know what it's like to build a kingdom for someone just to have them spit on the throne. Update. The House of Cards has collapsed. It's been a week since the confrontation, and the fallout is messier than a botched heist on the casino floor. My phone hasn't stopped buzzing, and the contrast between my former in-laws is something I didn't expect. The mother's negotiation, Maya's mother, Brenda, has been calling me incessantly. She's not apologizing. She's pitching. She came to my office yesterday, hair perfect, clutching a designer bag I bought her, and tried to play the family card. She actually had the nerve to tell me that I'm being unreasonable and that a man of my stature should be above such pettiness. Her exact words were, Elias, she's young and she got confused. You were working too hard. Just let her come home, clear the debts, and we can go back to how it was. I'll talk to her. I'll make sure she stays in line. She's trying to sell me back a broken product she helped break. It's disgusting. She doesn't care about Maya's happiness or my heartbreak. She cares about the monthly allowance and the mortgage on her colonial-style house that I'm currently foreclosing on. The father's breaking point, then there's Arthur, Maya's dad. He's the man who taught me how to change a tire when I was 17 and my own father was nowhere to be found. He's a retired mechanic, a man of few words and a lot of integrity. Last night, I found him sitting on the steps of my office building. He looked like he'd aged 20 years in a week. He wouldn't even look me in the eye. He just handed me a manila envelope with the keys to the house I bought him and the title to his truck. I can't keep these, Elias, he said, his voice cracking. I didn't know what she was doing. I swear on my life. I found out this morning that Brenda knew the whole time. She was the one covering for Maya, telling her to enjoy herself while the money was still flowing. She told me she just wanted her daughter happy, but we both know she just wanted the gravy train to keep rolling. The ultimate betrayal, it turns out Brenda wasn't just a passive observer. She was the lookout. She would call Maya to warn her when I was headed home early. She encouraged the affair because she thought I was too powerful to ever actually be touched by it. She thought I was an ATM, not a man. Arthur is done. He told me he filed for divorce from Brenda this morning. He's moving into a small apartment near the docks and taking a part-time job as a grease monkey. He told me he'd rather die in a ditch than live on blood money from a daughter who betrayed a man who was more of a son to him than his own blood. The new alliance, I told Arthur to keep the truck. He refused. I told him I'd set him up in a nice place. He refused that too. Finally, I said, Art, if you won't take my money, at least take my time. We went to a dive bar, the kind of place where nobody knows who the casino king is. For 3 hours, we didn't talk about Maya or the money. We talked about cars and the old days. He's the only person in that entire family who isn't a shark. The reality check, as for Maya, she's staying with Julian in that cramped studio. Brenda is staying with him too now that I've officially locked the doors to the big house. I heard from a mutual contact that the romance is already souring. Apparently, it's hard to be simple and real when you're arguing over who has enough change for the laundromat and Brenda is in the corner screaming about her lost lifestyle. I'm keeping Arthur close. I'm making sure he has the best legal representation for his divorce, and I'm hiring him to consult on my casino's transport fleet. A real job, with a real salary, because he's a man who earns his keep. The rest of them? They're exactly where they started. Back in the dirt. Only now they know what the view looks like from the top. The house always wins, but it knows how to take care of its own. Update. She finally called. From a $30 burner phone. I was sitting in my office at the casino, looking over the blueprints for the new sports book when my private line buzzed. It was a number I didn't recognize, a local area code, but definitely not a high-end carrier. I knew exactly who it was before I even picked up. The call, I let it ring until the very last second. When I answered, I didn't say hello. I just waited. The silence on the other end lasted for a full 10 seconds before I heard that shaky, familiar breath. Elias. Her voice sounded different. The queen of the strip was gone. She sounded tired, thin, and desperate. I'm listening, I said. My voice was as flat as a poker table. Elias, please, you have to stop. My mom is crying every night. Julian lost his car yesterday because he couldn't make the payment. We're living out of boxes. It's cold in this apartment, and I don't have enough money for a coat that actually works. I leaned back in my Italian leather chair, looking out at the neon lights of the city I conquered for her. It sounds like you're finally getting that real life you were craving, Maya. No glitz, no glam, just the raw honesty of the middle class. Isn't this what you told Julian you wanted? The breakdown, she started sobbing. It wasn't the pretty, delicate crying she used to do to get her way. This was the ugly, jagged sobbing of someone who realized they jumped off a cliff and the parachute was a drawing. I made a mistake. I was bored, Elias. You were always working, and he was just there. He listened to me, but he can't fix this. He's falling apart. He's not you. Please, just talk to the banks. Give my dad his house back. You can hate me, but don't do this to them. I felt a flash of heat in my chest, but I kept my poker face on my voice. Your dad already chose his side, Maya. He moved out. He's working for me now, honestly. He's the only one of you with a spine. As for your mother, she didn't care about your happiness. She cared about my bank account. She's exactly where she deserves to be. The final bet, then she tried her last card. The one she thought would always work. Elias, remember the roof of your truck? Remember the promise? You said you'd always protect me. We're high school sweethearts. You can't just erase 15 years. You erased them the second you walked into that motel room, Maya, I replied. I didn't break the promise. I gave you exactly what you asked for. You want a life away from my casino world. You're in it now. And in this world, when you're out of chips, you leave the table. I heard Julian's voice in the background, muffled and angry, asking her who she was talking to. This simple, beautiful life sounded like a lot of yelling and resentment. Don't call this line again, I said. Every time you do, I'll find another one of Julian's debts to buy up. Think of it as a convenience fee for my time. I hung up. The aftermath, I spent the next hour sitting in the dark. It's a strange feeling when you realize the person you would have died for is now just a ghost on the other end of a cheap phone line. But then I thought about Arthur. He's coming over tonight. We're going to work on the engine of my vintage Mustang. He's found a sense of peace he hasn't had in years, away from Brenda's greed and Maya's lies. The house is quiet, but it's clean. And for the first time in a year, I don't have to wonder who's bluffing. Edit. My legal team just informed me that Julian is looking into bankruptcy. I'm thinking about buying the bankruptcy claim just to keep the proceedings open for another 2 years. Too much. Update. She tried to storm the kingdom. It didn't go the way she imagined. I was in a surveillance hub, the eye in the sky, checking the resolution on our new facial recognition cameras. It's ironic, really. I was literally looking at a screen of 1,000 faces when the head of floor security, a guy named Marcus who's been with me since I opened my first joint, tapped my shoulder. Boss, we've got a situation at the north entrance. You're going to want to see this. He pulled up camera 4, and there she was. The spectacle. Maya didn't look like the woman who used to grace the covers of luxury magazines. She was wearing a hoodie, one of my old ones she must have swiped before she was kicked out, and jeans that looked like she'd been wearing them for 3 days. Her hair was a mess, and she was pacing back and forth in front of the gold-trimmed glass doors. She was trying to push past the velvet ropes. My security team is trained to be the most polite immovable walls in Vegas, but she was making a scene. She was screaming that she was the CEO's wife and that they'd all be fired by morning. The tourists were stopping to stare. Some were even recording on their phones. To them, she just looked like another unlucky gambler who'd lost her mind at the tables. The confrontation. I didn't stay upstairs. I walked down. I wanted her to see me in my element, surrounded by the empire she thought she could betray and still enjoy. When the elevator doors opened and I stepped into the lobby, she saw me. She broke past the guard, who let her go because he saw me nod, and ran toward me. She reached out to grab my suit jacket, but I stepped back. Just an inch. It was the longest inch in the world. Elias, tell them who I am, she shouted. Her eyes were bloodshot. She smelled like cheap cigarettes and desperation. I looked at Marcus and spoke loud enough for the gathering crowd to hear. Do we have a record of this woman? Is she a high roller? A guest? Marcus didn't miss a beat. No, sir. No active player card. No observation. Just a trespasser causing a disturbance. The reality check. Maya's face went pale. Elias, stop it. I'm your wife. I'm Maya. I'm the girl from the trailer park, remember? The one you promised the sky to. I leaned in, close enough so only she could hear me. My voice was a whisper, cold as the marble floors under our feet. That girl died in a $60 motel room, Maya. The woman standing in front of me is just a liability. You walked away from the sky. Now you have to learn to live in the dirt. I pulled a $100 bill out of my pocket, a black chip in paper form. I tucked it into the pocket of her hoodie. Here, this is for the Uber back to your studio. Don't come back. If you set foot on this property again, I won't come down. I'll just have the police file the restraining order I already have drafted. The exit. She tried to slap me. She really did. But Marcus caught her wrist before she was even close. It was pathetic. She was sobbing now, calling me a monster, a cold-hearted bastard, everything but the man who had loved her for 15 years. I watched as security escorted her out the gold doors. She looked so small against the neon lights of the Strip. She looked like exactly what she was, someone who had the winning hand of a lifetime and decided to fold. The aftermath. As I walked back to the elevators, my phone buzzed. It was a text from Arthur. He'd sent me a photo of a vintage carburetor he'd just finished cleaning for the Mustang. Ready for the install whenever you are, son, it read. I took a deep breath of the filtered, expensive casino air. It's funny, people think the house wins because of luck. But it's not luck. It's math. It's discipline. It's knowing exactly when to cut your losses. Maya was my biggest loss. But Arthur? He's the only part of that life worth keeping. Edit. I just got word that Julian was waiting for her in the parking lot in a beat-up 2010 sedan. They were seen arguing before they drove off. Apparently, he's mad she went to see me. The perfect, simple romance is officially a war zone. Update. I've officially played the dead man's hand on Brenda. If you've been following, you know Brenda, my soon-to-be ex-mother-in-law, was the one who coached Maya on how to hide the affair. She wasn't just supporting her daughter. She was protecting her own luxury lifestyle. She thought that even if Maya and I divorced, there would be a massive settlement, and she'd just move into a slightly smaller mansion on my dime. She forgot one thing. I don't just run casinos. I own the data behind them. The paper trail. About 3 years ago, Brenda asked me for a small loan to start a boutique interior design business. Being the dutiful son-in-law, I set it up for her. I gave her $500,000 as a business loan through one of my holding companies. I never pushed her for payments because at the time, I considered it a gift to keep her busy, but I never closed the ledger. When the infidelity came out, my lawyers went through every single expense Brenda had charged to that business. It turns out she wasn't buying fabric samples. She was using that money to fund getaways for Maya and Julian. I found receipts for spa days where Brenda, Maya, and Julian all had appointments under fake names, all paid for with my business loan. The legal checkmate. Here's the final move. Instead of just suing for divorce, my legal team filed a racketeering and fraud suit against Brenda's business. The debt call. I officially called in the $500,000 loan, plus interest. Since she spent it all on Julian and Maya's trysts, she has $0 to pay it back. The piercing of the veil. because she used business funds for personal and frankly illicit reasons. The court pierced the corporate veil. This means she is personally liable. Her car, her jewelry, and that colonial house she loves, all collateral. The settlement offset. In the divorce proceedings with Maya, I've introduced a dissipation of marital assets claim. I'm arguing that every cent Maya spent on Julian was stolen from our marital estate. I've requested that Maya's half of the settlement be used to pay back the $500,000 debt her mother owes my company. Basically, I'm making Maya pay her mother's debt with the money she thought she'd get from me. The result: Brenda is currently being served with a foreclosure notice on the house she thought was her forever home. Because Arthur, the dad, already filed for divorce and waived his rights to the property to stay in my good graces, Brenda is on the hook for the whole thing alone. She called me screaming this morning. She called me a cold-blooded shark. I told her that in a casino, the shark is the one who knows the rules. The fish is the one who thinks the rules don't apply to them. The view from the penthouse. Arthur and I finished the Mustang tonight. We took it for a spin down the strip, passing right by the north entrance where Maya made her scene a few days ago. Art looked over at me and said, "You know, Elias, I spent 30 years trying to make that woman happy, and all she ever wanted was more. This is the first time I felt like I can breathe. We're planning a fishing trip to Montana next month. No phones, no casinos, no Brenda, and definitely no Maya. As for the Evergold couple, the gold was fake, the love was a gamble, and I've finally cleared the table." Final edit. This will be my last update for a while. The lawyers are handling the rest, and Julian and Maya are reportedly looking for a second-hand trailer. Ironic, considering that's where we started. Life has a funny way of coming full circle if you know how to spin the wheel. Thanks for following my story. Remember, play fair, or the house will take everything you have.
If you enjoy the story, please hit like and subscribe for daily content, and comment your thoughts, suggestions, and request stories below. Thank you for watching, and I hope to see you in the next video.